This is the first time the site has lost all power since 23rd November 2022 and follows reports of missile strikes across Ukraine overnight. Each time we are rolling a dice, and if we allow this to continue time after time, then one day our luck will run out.
Росія перейшла до відвертого ядерного шантажу. Те, що відбувається зараз навколо Запорізької АЕС, це один з найбільших злочинів держави-терориста. Сьогодні зафіксовані чергові прильоти російських снарядів по території станції в безпосередній близькості.
In the heart of war-torn Ukraine, a ticking time bomb sits precariously. The Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant, the largest in Europe. The world holds its breath, fearing the unthinkable, another Chernobyl. But this time, it's not just an accident that could trigger catastrophe, it's a war. Russia and Ukraine, locked in a bitter conflict, are playing a deadly game with nuclear fire. The plant, now a battlefield, is on the brink of becoming ground zero for a disaster that could eclipse even the horrors of the 1986 Chernobyl disaster. As accusations fly and the situation spirals out of control, one question haunts the world. Are we about to witness history's most devastating nuclear catastrophe? In today's episode of HT in Depth, we'll unravel the tangled web of events surrounding the Zaporizhzhia plant and understand why fears of a second Chernobyl are haunting the world. On August 11th, a fire erupted at the Zaporizhzhia plant, sparking panic across the globe. Accusations flew thick and fast, with both Russia and Ukraine accusing each other of shelling the plant, raising fears of a catastrophic meltdown. The international community watched on with bated breath, with the memories of Chernobyl serving as a terrifying reminder of the potential consequences. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky claims that Russia is using the nuclear power plant as a bargaining chip, blackmailing both Ukraine and the whole of Europe and the world. On the other hand, Russia claims that Ukrainian forces are deliberately targeting the plant to provoke an international outcry. This blame game is not just a war of words, it's a deadly gamble with nuclear safety. The fire has since been contained and no radiation leak was detected, but the incident renews fears of a deadly nuclear catastrophe. Zaporizhzhia is no ordinary power plant. It's the largest nuclear power plant in Europe and among the top 10 in the world. The plant's 6 reactors have a combined capacity of nearly 6,000 megawatts, enough to power about 4 million homes. With 6 reactors, it generates around a quarter of Ukraine's electricity. This makes it a significant energy source not just for Ukraine, but for the broader European region. Beyond its size, Zaporizhzhia is a symbol of Ukraine's energy independence. Before the war, it was a cornerstone of the country's power grid, helping to reduce its reliance on Russian energy imports. The plant's location, near the front lines of the ongoing conflict, makes it a high-stakes target in the war. The Zaporizhzhia plant fell into Russian hands early in the invasion. Russian forces took control of the plant in March 2022, just a few weeks after the conflict began. The takeover was swift, with Ukrainian staff at the plant continuing to operate the facility under Russian oversight. The plant's occupation has turned it into a geopolitical pawn, with both sides using it to leverage international opinion. For Russia, controlling Zaporizhzhia means holding a significant piece of Ukraine's infrastructure. For Ukraine, the plant's safety is a constant worry, with fears that any damage could lead to a disaster of global proportions. Since Russia took control, the Zaporizhzhia plant has been the subject of numerous attacks, with both sides accusing each other of endangering the facility.
The situation became worse and worse. The degradation of equipment, that is what has happened, the lack of personnel, leakages, the number of problems only increased each day of the illegal occupation, and that the general situation is moving to nuclear accident, and it's very important to stop immediately this presence and to return the station back to Ukrainian authorized operator.
То, что противник наносит удары, теперь же прямо по станции, это, конечно, требует особого внимания с нашей стороны. И, к сожалению, не привлекает внимания со стороны тех людей и тех сил, которые киевский режим поддерживает сегодня. Ну, это большая их ошибка.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has been trying to mediate and ensure the plant's safety. However, the agency's efforts have been hampered by the ongoing fighting and the complex political situation.
Even though the plant's 6 reactors are now in cold shutdown, with the final unit shifting into that status 2 days ago, following the IAEA's recommendation, the potential dangers of a major nuclear accident remain very real. No one can conceivably benefit or gain any military or political advantage from attacks against nuclear facilities. Attacking a nuclear power plant, ladies and gentlemen, is an absolute no-go.
The situation at Zaporizhzhia is unpredictable, but several scenarios could unfold. In the worst-case scenario, continued shelling could breach the plant's reactors or storage facilities, leading to a massive release of radioactive material. Such an event would be catastrophic, a disaster on the scale of Chernobyl or Fukushima. Another possibility is a deliberate attack as a strategic move by one of the warring sides. In this scenario, the consequences could be even more devastating, with the potential for long-term environmental and human impacts. A third scenario is that the plant could be caught in the crossfire, leading to a partial meltdown or containment breach. This would result in a more localized disaster, but the effects would still be severe, both for Ukraine and its neighbors. Finally, there's the hope that international pressure and diplomacy could de-escalate the situation, leading to the establishment of a safety zone around the plant. This would require cooperation from both Russia and Ukraine, as well as the backing of the international community. However, given the current state of the conflict, this seems like a distant hope. The plant's reactors are designed to withstand significant impacts, but they are not invulnerable. A direct hit on a reactor or the spent fuel storage could lead to a catastrophic release of radiation. Even if the reactors themselves are not breached, damage to the plant's cooling systems or power supply could lead to a meltdown. The specter of Chernobyl looms large over the Zaporizhzhia plant. The memories of the 1986 disaster are still fresh in the minds of many, particularly in Ukraine and across Europe. Chernobyl was the worst nuclear disaster in history that occurred due to a combination of technology failure, human error, and a lack of safety culture. The fears of another Chernobyl are not unfounded. The plant's location in an active conflict zone, combined with the ongoing attacks and the presence of Russian forces, creates a perfect storm for disaster. If a meltdown were to occur, the release of radiation could be even worse than Chernobyl, with the potential to spread across Europe and beyond. A nuclear disaster at Zaporizhzhia would not only be a humanitarian crisis, but could also destabilize the region for decades to come. As the conflict between Russia and Ukraine rages on, the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant stands at the crossroads of war and potential disaster. The recent fire and ongoing blame game have brought the world perilously close to a nuclear catastrophe, and the fear of another Chernobyl is all too real. But as the situation continues to evolve, one thing is clear: the threat at Zaporizhzhia is far from over, and the risk of a nuclear catastrophe looms large. Will history repeat itself, or will the world manage to avert disaster? Only time will tell.